Hey everybody, meteorologist Brad Penovich here. We've got to talk about the Ides of March. They're upon us. March is here. Are we going to see a turnaround in the pattern? Well, that seems to be the burning question for everyone in the Southeast. What has been a crazy warm winter, are we going to see a late season flip that might give us some late season magic? Well, let's get right to the details here. I'll show you real quickly. Oh, I was going to show you real quick. Let me refresh this real quick. There we go. The upper level pattern, we're kind of flat. We're not seeing a big ridge right now. A little bit of ridging takes place later this week, but there's signs that the Arctic is starting to move some cold air. We had what's called a sudden stratospheric warming event about a week ago or so. It's ongoing now, which means in about 2 weeks, week and a half, we should expect some cold air to move, and we're starting to see signs of it trying to come south by maybe not this weekend, but maybe next weekend. So we're talking that second weekend in March that we might get some colder air down into this region. So let's take a quick look. I want to show you the teleconnections. The teleconnections are something we look at quite a bit to kind of see what the long range pattern is going to look like. I'm going to show you the anomalies here in a minute, but what I want to start with are these ensembles that we're looking at for the teleconnection. So this is the Arctic oscillation. If you notice going into the 5th, 6th, 7th, 12th of the month, you start to see some lower and below zero readings here for the Arctic oscillation, the North Atlantic oscillation, all negative. That's in the European guidance. You look at the GFS guidance, it's starting to trend that way as well. Look at the Arctic oscillation, there you go. Right around the same time frame, North Atlantic oscillation, same thing. So we're seeing these trends, all the major the EPOs all going negative. This is all a sign that we're likely going to see cold air on the move. But the question is, where is it going to move? So let's take a look at the on the anomalies, basically the temperature anomalies. Are we going to see some below average temperatures get down here into the southeast to give us maybe some late season magic? So let's go through time. Obviously pretty warm this week, and you'll see that reflected in the Tuesday, Wednesday anomalies. But look what happens as we get into the weekend. Kind of a brief cool down. I do think some snowmaking opportunities, but most of the cold air is still bottled up out west. That is something we've seen a lot of lately. All the cold air is here. This is just kind of transient, kind of cool air, not cold air. But as we go later into this month, here's the 10th, the 11th, things start to flip a little bit here, okay? We're 10 days into the month. The cold air is starting to take over the eastern half of the country. Now, the heart of it's here, but if you look at some of these anomalies, anywhere from 20 to maybe 10 degrees below average, by March 10th or 11th. If we go even further into time, that cold air has some staying power. This is the 12th. Look at that. The cold air actually gets more intense. We go through the 13th, the 14th. You know, we go into the later and middle parts of the month. Hey, that's some consistent cold. Honestly, that's probably the coldest consistent cold we've seen since that outbreak back in December. Now, remember, it's still March, so the average is a little bit higher, but still in the mountain areas, I think this is going to be not just a quick hitter. This will be a stretch of cold air that starts really, next week, middle of next week, and then last maybe all the way until the 20th. So those are some really good signs of seeing some colder air kind of sticking in place. So let's look at the short term. In between now and then, we've got a couple systems moving across the east. You could see mostly rain. Even this weekend, though, backside of this system right there, there could be a brief shot of snow. So like we've seen almost all season long, if it does get cool and we do see some snow, it happens on the weekend. So this weekend, maybe not bad for the first weekend in March. The resorts that are able to stay open, if you can withstand the next week, I'm telling you, there might be some late season magic in the offing, because going into next week, this is next Thursday, look at the cold air in place here. Much colder air mass, in fact, looks like snow here, maybe even east of the mountains, with more snow possibly arriving. So there's some signals there, guys. I'm going to tell you, I'm not just sugarcoating this, because it's been a pretty bummer of a season for snow and cold. But after this weekend, next week, there are signs that maybe the rest of March might end up being good. The problem is we got to get through the next week. All right, that's the million-dollar dilemma here. Can we get through the next week to get us into next week, and then maybe we can stretch the season a couple more weeks? But getting there is the tough part. It's tough for operators to keep open. When you got warm temperatures, people kind of flipping the switch a little bit. But if you're able to hit the slopes these first couple weekends in March, I think you're going to be rewarded with some decent conditions. Maybe Mother Nature helping us out. So good news down the road. Just keep your fingers crossed it holds true, because by next week, I think we're going to see some consistent cold, and we might see below average temperatures for the middle and end of March. Have a great week. I'll post an update later this week as we get closer to this flip. And as always, keep thinking snow even as the calendar flips to March.